very warm welcome to tonight's organ recital. It's been a pleasure putting this together, because I don't know about you, but one of the things I'm really missing at the moment during this time of lockdown is being able to hear and feel the power of St. Faith's organ resounding through the building on a Sunday morning and a Sunday evening. I've got a lot of recordings on my computer, recordings from organ recitals, so therefore they're live recordings. I have recordings where I have been in a church alone and produced an audio recording to put on YouTube, and some of the recordings are just me practicing and wanting just to quickly hear something to work out if I was actually playing in the way I thought I was, checking the phrasing, checking the tempo, that kind of thing. So there's a real mixture of stuff here this evening. And the funny thing is, at the time of recording this opening message, I actually don't know what the programme's going to be. I've only got an idea of what a few of the pieces are going to be, so it's all going to unfold around us. It's going to be Pentecost in a couple of days' time, and I thought I'd have a piece of music dedicated to the Holy Spirit. This is a piece of Bach, J.S. Bach, and it's called Komm Gott Schöpfer Heiliger Geist. It's a chorale prelude, and these pieces were originally designed to be played as very elaborate introductions to a hymn tune. I'm not talking about the sort of introduction where the vicar or the priest announces a hymn, then the organist plays an introduction. I'm not talking about that sort of thing, but maybe before the service, an elaborate piece of music based on a hymn tune or a chorale melody, as they would be called in the Lutheran Church, so that people in the congregation would hear little fragments of a well-known chorale, a well-known hymn tune hidden in the music. And they think, oh, right, okay, I can pretty much guess which hymn tune is coming up later in the service. So this is based on some plain song, Veni Creator Spiritus. And you may well recognise this tune. It's Come, Holy Ghost, our souls inspire. That's the opening. I'll save you listening to me singing the whole thing through. But anyway, here's a bit of Bach based on that hymn tune. I wonder if you can spot it. People often ask me how I began playing the organ, and I suppose the answer really is that it happened totally by accident. I've always had a love of the instrument, ever since I was old enough to really be aware of the sound of an organ in a church. So my home parish really in Bristol was it was a Roman Catholic church. I am a Roman Catholic, and it was called St Gerard Majella in an area called Knowle in Bristol. Beautiful church, very traditional building, and I mean absolutely beautiful inside. Really lovely acoustic as well, and this gorgeous instrument, little 2-manual instrument, you know, had 2 keyboards and pedals, of course. A lovely dark wood organ case, and these what looked like golden coloured pipes to me. They were obviously painted, and usually organ pipes are sort of a lead colour or a silver colour, that sort of thing, but these were painted a lovely golden colour. And the organist at the time wasn't a professional musician, but she was an incredibly gifted amateur organist, and I loved the sound of the organ. I didn't really think that one day I'd learn to play, and in fact a lot of people say to me, oh, you must have had piano lessons from a very early age, and you must have done this and you must have done that, and my answer is always no, I didn't actually. Had some piano lessons when I was 5, but didn't really keep it up, and didn't really touch a keyboard instrument again until I was about 15, and even then that wasn't a piano, it was an electronic Yamaha keyboard, and I took a liking to the organ, as I say, from an early age, but once I'd had this keyboard and started learning to find my way around the notes, and actually a new parish priest who was incredibly approachable, very interested in youth in the parish, and the funny thing was that at the time, that at the age of 15 and a half, I pretty much was, well, I was one of the 4 or 5 youth in the congregation, so, you know, he was very keen to support any young person in the church who was interested in anything at all, really. So I said to him, could I have a little go on the organ? He said, go for it. So I had a go, and I got totally hooked on it. You might say I was bitten by the bug, and that was it. I was self-taught for a year, and eventually I found a teacher. Well, my godmother found me a teacher, actually. Went to an organ recital at Bath Abbey, and she approached the recitalist at the wine and nibbles at the end of the evening. I was incredibly embarrassed, and she said, do you give organ lessons? And this chap said, well, actually I don't. Well, I do, but not in this area. I don't live in the Bristol Bath area, but this friend of mine here does. And this is a wonderful chap called Tony Pennell, and we had organ lessons together at a wonderful church, St Mary Redcliffe in Bristol. Gorgeous 4-manual organ, you know, really famous instrument, and a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful church. So I had these lessons, and after about a year of doing that, I sort of had this wild idea that I'd go to music college, and I did. I worked really hard. I remember once my mother was chatting to the neighbour next door. We lived in a terrace house, and she was talking about the sound of the piano, because by this point we then had a piano back in the house again, and she said, well, I hope you don't mind the sound of the piano. And the neighbour's response was, well, actually, we love the sound of the piano, but when it's all morning and all afternoon and all evening, it can get a bit much. But they weren't funny about it. They sort of said it in a slightly jokey, flippant kind of way. I went to the Birmingham Conservatoire, had lessons at David Saint, and then the rest is history, really. But anyway, let's have a look at that first organ that I played, the organ of St Gerard Majella in Knowle. Now those little recordings you've heard just there, were just produced on my mobile phone, must be about 2 years ago. A bit of a funny situation really. We'd gone to Bristol, it was my grandmother's funeral, and her body was being received into the church, and we popped along for a special reception service the night before the funeral service itself, and bless her, she was in the coffin in the church. Now for an organist, you know, I very often practiced in a church with that kind of setup, you know, because you practice when you have time to practice, and churches are used for many things. Churches, believe it or not, they're not just there for the organist to practice, although sometimes I believe they are. Anyway, so yes, I was just playing music. I didn't have any sheet music with me. I was just messing about really. But the priest said a lovely thing the following day, because he was also in the church while I was playing that evening, and he said, you know, Richard last night was playing in the church. It was lovely to hear the organ, because I believe they don't have a regular organist at the moment. At least they don't have anybody who plays every single week. And he said, you know, Richard's grandmother has gone off full of music, and I really like that idea actually. Anyhow, so that explains those recordings. The fascination about the organ is it's no two organs are the same really. Organs come in different sizes, made by different, if you might say, organ builders, manufacturers, and each organ has a very different and distinctive sound, and it takes a while to find your way around a new instrument, especially if it's a big instrument, if you're going somewhere to play a concert, you know, to give an organ recital. These next videos were taken another beautiful church, Holy Trinity Gosport. People who go there regularly for the Sunday afternoon tea time concerts and the Monday organ recitals will recognise this church. Now the reason behind these videos is I was wanting to upload them to Facebook. I was wanting to attract people to come to the organ recital, people who wouldn't normally even think of going to an organ recital. At the time I was working with a lot of different choirs, not only as director of music but also as a pianist or an organist with others. So I had a lot of choir contacts, a lot of whom were friends on Facebook, in fact still are. And I thought I'll produce some little videos which introduce the organ, not necessarily this organ at Holy Trinity, but the idea of the organ and what the organ can do and how you play it. So when you see these videos now, this was just literally me sat at the organ, mobile phone perched on a music stand, just like now, funnily enough, although I didn't have a lovely willow tree behind me at the time. And I talk about the repertoire that I was going to be playing the organ recital the following week, and also I talk about the organ in terms of how you play the organ. I said at the start of this recital that one of the things I miss is the organ, that I've got a piano at home but it's not the same. Well, when you watch these next videos you'll see what I mean. Now here I am, obviously sat at the organ console in Holy Trinity Gosport. There are so many things that I love about Holy Trinity Gosport. One of the things has to be the marvellous acoustic. You can probably hear the way that my voice is reverberating around the building. A concert of anything, choral music, instrumental music, organ music, will always sound amazing, truly amazing at Holy Trinity. The organ itself is absolutely fabulous. It was restored very, very recently, and it has a very varied tonal palette, lots of different stops and colours available to the organist. Here is one of the pieces that I'll be playing, a little excerpt of it anyway. It's from François Couperin's Messe pour les Couvents, and it's the Fugue sur la trompette. course, it doesn't end like that. I've just had to stop there. Hopefully, that little opening will encourage you to think about coming along on Monday and hearing this fine instrument, particularly if you're somebody who perhaps isn't an organist, don't know much about the organ, and maybe just intrigued to hear some more. Lots of lovely, delicate sounds on this organ as well. There are some very, very beautiful, what they call string stops on this organ, the beautiful voix céleste. Which is, of course, beautiful, isn't it? As that sort of, as the name voix céleste suggests, it, the heavenly voice, celestial voice. Also, some very sparkly sounds, like this, for example. This is a little excerpt from one of the pieces I'll be playing. That's a little piece of Bach, part of a concerto that I will be playing. There are lots of other beautiful sounds on this instrument as well, particularly delicious sounding oboe. Isn't that just lovely? And some very, very fine sounding diapason pipes, principal pipes. On this keyboard, for example. So some beautifully mellow sounds, as well as, of course, the very rich full chorus sound that you would get when the organist, as it were, pulls all the stops out. Hope you enjoy that. Come and hear more. Monday, 19th January. We're very lucky to have such a wonderful instrument at St. Faith's. Tonally, it sounds very, very impressive, magnificent really, especially within this glorious acoustic. Visually, it looks great, doesn't it? But a lot of people don't realise that beyond these pipes at the front are hundreds of pipes inside the instrument as well. In fact, in some cathedral instruments, you're talking thousands of pipes for all the different sounds, all the different colours that you've heard me talking about in a previous video. I've opened the organ up here, and you can see just in front of me, there's this thing that's white here, and down here, this wooden surface. These are two of the bellows in the organ. The blower that provides the air is down in a room below the church, and when you switch that on, it blows air up through a massive pipe, which you'll see in a moment, and the air goes into these bellows. Now, there are weights, a bit like bricks, placed on top of the bellows. You might be able to see them just here. And when these bellows are full of air, the bricks serve to add pressure to the air, so that basically the pipes, when you play your notes, will speak with a lovely even tone. I'm just going to put the air on. It's going to get a bit noisy now, but I'll put the air on, and you can see those bellows coming to life. You can hear the instrument creaking to life. Here we go. See how the bellows rise with air. So has the bellows below, but you probably didn't see that so clearly. So that's my music rest, which is normally in the down position. Okay, so let's have a quick look inside the organ. Quite a few cobwebs in here. I'll probably need a good dusting off when I come out. Yes, so there's a massive pipe at the back down here, massive metallic pipe bringing the air up from down below. And as I was saying, into these bellows, which then add lots and lots of pressure to the air, so that the tone of the organ is lovely and even. The first set of pipes you see here are some of the pedal pipes. These big ones just here, this is the pedal violon, and the silver, the slightly shinier sort of tin pipes, if you like, are the pedal trombone. You can see them going all the way up there. And they actually have, I don't know if you can really see this, I'll try another angle in a moment, but they're conical, these pipes, really. Okay, I have to be very careful not to trip over this pipe. It looks a bit like a sewer pipe, doesn't it? But actually it's carrying air, it's carrying wind across to the pedal trombone. Here are some of the electrical components of the organ. The organ here has an electric action, which means that when I press a key, then the pipe that then the pallet then opens under the pipe to make it speak is actually operated remotely, if you like, electronically. Okay, this part of the organ is called the swell organ. It looks like a giant wardrobe, and it has got shutters on the side that act as a louver. All the pipes for the top keyboard of the organ, known as the swell, are inside this box. When I play, I can use a foot pedal to open and close these shutters to create a crescendo and a diminuendo effect. Now over there at the back you can see some of the pedal stops. We're very lucky with this organ, it does have such a wonderful rich sound, and a lot of that richness comes from the bass department, the pedals. I'm just going to pop this phone down here for a second whilst I very gingerly climb up a ladder. I'm not a great one for climbing up inside organs. I had a wonderful director of music in Birmingham who was, apart from a fantastic musician and a lovely guy, he was brilliant at getting into instruments and fixing them. Now the lower keyboard of the organ is called the grate, and it has all the big loud sounds, and these pipes that you can see in front of me here are part of the grate. And you can see just here, you'll probably get a better idea. I was trying to show you the pedal trombone earlier on, but these pipes here, this is the great trumpet, and you can see quite clearly how they are conical pipes, whereas these are more uniform in their diameter as they come down. Just looking behind all these pipes here, you can actually see the back of the case pipes that are on the facade, if you like. Okay, so just a little tiny glimpse inside the organ of St. Faith's. Another type of organ that I really must mention at this point is a type of organ we know as digital Hauptwerk. Local organist who many of you will know, Lyndon Ford, owns one of these instruments, and we have hired his instrument on a number of times with Lee Choral Society, but also with St Faith's Church for my organ recitals. And I just want to show you a couple of little snippets from some different concerts. The first concert, I believe, was maybe 2-3 years ago, and another concert was back in 2016. They are only short fragments. One of the pieces, again, was publicity on Facebook, come to the organ recital kind of thing, as we were trying to raise money for the music fund, for the purchase of new sheet music for the choir, that sort of thing. And the other two clips, I can't remember really. I think I just put them out on Facebook to say, hey guys, look what I've done. They are snippets from a piece. The piece where I'm dressed in a black shirt and the camera angle is from up above. That was the 2016 recital, and these little excerpts come from a toccata from the Suite Gothique by Boelmont, French composer. The other recording where I'm dressed in a pink shirt, if you like, that was a Facebook advert saying come along to the organ recital. But digital Hauptwerk, the good thing about it is that you can have installed into the organ the sounds of different famous instruments from around the world. And in both of these snippets it's a French organ that's being played, Metz Cathedral, and it sounds really quite different. Enjoy these.